Welcome to the Auto Vault podcast, where the world of luxury meets the open road. This show is all about bringing together extraordinary people from all walks of life, united by one thing, a passion for automobiles. This podcast is your front row seat to the stories that drive us all. I'm Scott Prescott, founder and owner of Auto Vault Rodeo Drive here in beautiful downtown Beverly Hills. Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Prescott with Auto Vault Storage Beverly Hills. This is our podcast. Today, we're going to speak with Nana Boateng.
Yes, absolutely.
From Ghana. He's a fashion designer, clothing, and we're going to try to intertwine the clothing and fashion design with the beauty and the design of automobiles. Nana, we've known each other for a little while,
Yes,
not a lot,
Yes.
but I don't really know that much about you.
Yes.
And we wanted to try to get a little bit to know about you in what you do.
Absolutely.
Can you share with us a little bit of a journey from fashion, from Ghana? Were you born here in the United States?
United States, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Back east?
Yes, back east, yeah. Tri-state area. And systematically, my fashion sense and the upbringing of me doing fashion was by my collegiate sweetheart, college sweetheart, who was actually from New York City, from Brooklyn. And I finished school in a really rough climate during 9/11, like literally right after 9/11.
Yeah.
I graduated from college up in New England. I know you have a New England trait, being from up in New England. And it was really tough to enter the workforce after I graduated from college. Really, really tough. You know, jobs were declining because of the catastrophe of 9/11. And she told me, she said, "Why don't you go into fashion?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a fashion sense. I was an international marketing finance major. I was a double major." And coincidentally, a lot of students that I graduated with, they actually thought I was a fashion major, but I wasn't. And she said, "You should try to pursue it. You should look into it." And my mind was in a different path because I was an athlete in prep school in Connecticut and tried to play basketball in college and just got really distracted. But anyway, I graduated and I was just lost for about a year and a half or two. And I decided, my family, a lot of them living in Italy, in Rome, migrated from Ghana to Italy. And I went back to Italy and I just started in Napoli and I started developing men's shirts. And it grew from men's shirts to men's suits and and shoes and furthermore. And I catapulted and I'm in the luxury capital of the world.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to say when you're in your journey from where you came to where you are now. And as far as your initial impression now of Rodeo Drive and how that kind of intertwines, because we are on Rodeo Drive,
Yes.
how that intertwines with your fashion and it has any influence at all.
What they say in life, if you want to swim with the big fish, you go to where the water's deep.
Yes, sir.
Rodeo Drive has to be where the big fish are, okay?
Yeah.
And my journey as it pertains to Beverly Hills and Rodeo Drive is when I moved to California 20 years ago. Every April dictates how many years I've lived here, and I moved here in April 2004. And I used to come up and down Rodeo Drive about 11:30 at night. I slept on a buddy's floor for about a year and a half, who was also assistant editor dealing in the film industry. And I just used to walk up and down Rodeo Drive because it was like a nuance. It was the epitome of luxury globally. And I would just look into the stores and try to define what my brand would actually look like once it was developed. And looking at that, and feeling that intensity of the street and it being such a world-renowned location, that really catapulted what I've become today, actually.
Wow, very good.
Very surreal.
Yeah, and I noticed through seeing you and all the different designs that you come in, I'm assuming those are your clothes.
Yes, please.
Sometimes they're very unique. I mean, as far as design and cut, where's that influence come from?
I think, I believe, I try to look at life where the fear of failing actually gives me so much adrenaline because I am, like a lot of friends say, you're always on 10 or you're always doing too much. And I feel like doing too much, if I fall short and I'm halfway there, then I've done just enough.
Great.
But I
That's
believe
good.
a lot of my travels, being from West Africa, having a strong European influence with, family, and then in the domestic world here in America, in the tri-state area, and also going to school in New England, I've journeyed through so many different walks of life where I was able to see different styles from countries all over the world. I also do business in a lot of different countries in the Middle East and Asia, outside of Europe. And I see so many different walks of life. The airport is like the best visual place where you could actually see a climate of global fashion.
Combination, yeah.
A combination of everything.
yeah.
And I watch. But they also say the key to being successful is being a great listener and a great watcher. So
And that would go into another question I had was kind of your design, because of you coming from different parts of the world, you travel all the time. Is there any one country that influences your design more than others, or pretty much it's universal?
I'm going to be selfish in the first part of the question, and that is my country, Ghana. I get so much out of it because it's like a mental form of happiness. And, when you're happy within, you get so much creative output from a human being. And I think culturally, we have a cloth called kente, which is in the Ashanti region where I'm from. And it's different textiles and fibers of color, which has been seen all over the world in global sectors or what have you. I think my country first, but I think secondly would probably be Japan, because they are so intricate in design. They are 8 to 10 years ahead of fashion. Everything is done so intricately done, and it's so well done. It's almost done to perfection.
Wow.
And there is not a limit. It's infinite. They have an infinite way of evolving what the fashion world or even just the creative world would be. They have a way of driving it further, kind of like what Apple does. It's always innovative. There's just always the next thing.
Wow. Kind of like a one step ahead of everything.
Everything.
Ahead
Absolutely.
of the curve.
Absolutely.
Just keeping going. And you think that's what keeps your edge kind of fresh, is just kind of stay ahead of it a little bit?
I think the travel does it a lot for me, because when inspiration doesn't find you, you have to find it. And finding inspiration is a very tough thing, because it's like the new generation now. They are creative thinkers. They are innovators. The foundation of going to college doesn't exist anymore. You can become a millionaire overnight.
Yeah.
So I think the know-how of investing in time and social media platforms and just seeing what's out there and seeing how you can evolve it makes it so much better.
Yeah. Wow, very good. Well, you and I have met through automobiles.
Yes.
You now have some cars and
Yes.
starting a collection of cars.
Absolutely.
And do you feel, obviously I'm very passionate about cars, do you feel automobile design kind of parallels kind of clothing design and that kind of thing?
It absolutely does. It was interesting enough when I started designing, just from my uncles, who were very elaborate West African men, were more or less, they dressed like dignitaries and ambassadors. They always, their perfume had to match the suit. The suit had to match the shoes. And it was such a silhouette. Everything had its own way. If they had a beard, they would dress a certain way versus having a goatee or versus having a clean face. The way they would wear their timepiece will be over the wrist bone of the watch. So everything systematically had a way, and that's what vehicles have. Vehicles have a very structured way of being, the lines, the cut of the vehicle, also the interior of the vehicle, the smell of the leather, the way the leather is wrapped. There's so many different intricate parts of a vehicle, and I'm very, very much in tune with that. It's charismatic. It's like, the RollsRoyce, being from Goodwin, England. We touched on that. We talked about the smell of the leather.
Right.
And if you want to elaborate on that,
Yeah.
about how the smell is from the vehicle, when you enter a Rolls-Royce, just by the smell. If someone blindfolded you and they put you in a Rolls-Royce, just the smell of the leather.
Yes. I mean, sometimes like in different parts of the world, like RollsRoyce is England, Germany, Italians, leather, those types of cows basically feed and diet on certain things, and therefore the leather is produced in different ways. Sometimes it smells and has different textures, just basically how the cows were brought up.
Absolutely.
So just that little touch and that little extra edge that keeps it a little bit different.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, oftentimes, a lot of car manufacturers will collaborate with fashion houses. One instance here locally is actually the fashion designer Bijan, men's clothing designer.
Yes.
RollsRoyce actually partnered with him to design a line of cars, especially Bijan cars. They did a few. It never evolved into anything. There's another one that comes to mind is Eddie Bauer was actually a wilderness designer. He has a line. He had a line of cars with Ford when they came out with their SUVs and all that.
Yes.
If that was something you would be involved in, what kind of car would relate to what you think?
Well, because we're on camera, I wouldn't want to hinder what brand of vehicle. I'm in a process of, I love to evolve what hasn't been. So I like taking something that doesn't have the biggest branding and evolving. It's kind of like what Elon Musk did with Tesla. You know, he made it futuristic and made it appealing. Vehicle-wise, I'm struck because just to openly say, I'm a Lamborghini RollsRoyce guy. That's my level. But I think there's some other cars that are out there that I would be interested in. Interesting enough, there was a time in the late 2000s where, what was it? Up in Michigan, I forgot the car company's name. It's not coming to me. That we had some talks about a vehicle, Lincoln.
Yep.
It was Lincoln. It was a time where Lincoln, around 2008 to 2010, that we were doing a lot of different work, and we had some talks about me designing the interior.
Oh, wow.
Of a vehicle. Fast forward, in about 2015 to 2016, there's a famous company here who revamps luxury cars called Roadstar Motorsports. Actually developed and founded by two twins from my country, Ghana. And the co-owner, Hassan, we talked about designing interiors for vehicles because they revamp and evolve, luxury cars, and we talked about that. So that's kind of like my next phase. It went from men's fashion to furniture because I started a clothing capsule upholstery and furniture with Bernhardt, which is a luxury furniture company domestically here in America. And I think and I believe that the car industry would really be like it because I'm so driven by like vehicles, really driven by vehicles. I can sit in a garage or look at a cam and just watch a silhouette of a vehicle, or just sit in the vehicle without the keys even being on and just
That's the point I was going to come into right next. I've noticed when you come here to pick up one of your cars, you will actually sit in it sometimes and just sit in it.
Yes.
And we'll watch you in our cameras going, what's he doing?
Yes.
But you just sit and absorb the car itself.
I sit and absorb it because a young kid from the inner city, especially in that tri-state area, you see the uniqueness of whether it be a luminary, whether it be a successful entrepreneur, be it blue collar or white collar, and you see the vehicle they drive. And sometimes they always say with a man, a vehicle, a watch, or a shoe kind of describes the gentleman that you are. But I have such an appreciation for it. I explained to you some time ago that the Robb Report, which was a really big publication back when I was in college, and even now.
It still is.
And it still is. It's kind of, that's how I learned about AutoVolt, amongst the lines of a lot of great friends who were heavy readers into that. Now, when I used to look at Robb Report, I would just look at the timepieces. And my buddies were looking at the actual vehicles, and they were so passionate about it. And learning about AutoVolt through the Robb Report and hearing how mysterious and how low-key it was for, it wasn't available to the masses and to the public.
Right.
It was kind of like it was a who's who.
Yeah, untouchables.
Untouchables. And I'm sitting here at AutoVolt, which is still surreal. My whole Southern California, Hollywood experience is still surreal. I still touch myself. Just such humble beginnings here. And now to, systematically kind of be at a point where I've been able to have some success. It's amazing. So many corners. Every location here, I just know from just walking, taking the bus, getting rides, borrowing someone's vehicle, to being in an environment like every corner, the west, the north, the south, and the east. And now to physically, be here, it's amazing.
I wanted to get back to something interests me when we were discussing about cars and design of cars, and you mentioned your kind of favored a Lamborghini and a RollsRoyce, which is they're 180-degree opposites of each other.
Absolutely.
I mean, a Lamborghini is a very high profile, look at me type of car, loud in your face, and a Rolls-Royce is a more subtle and more luxury, stately type of car.
Quiet luxury.
So there's two different different ends of the spectrum that you attracted to, and that kind of is you take maybe your personality.
Woof. If there were some people, namely my twin sister first, and then also my college sweetheart who actually started me in design many years ago. My personality is all over the place, literally, in terms of the taste of music I may listen to, the type of food I would consume, but also the vehicle, because the vehicle that I would drive would describe what I'm feeling like at that particular moment in time, that season, that day, and I'm a driving force. I actually compel music to a vehicle that I would drive that day based on the vehicle and the music I would play. It systematically kind of goes with the vehicle.
Right.
So RollsRoyce, if I was in a RollsRoyce, I would listen to like classical music. A great gentleman that is a up-and-coming classical musician named Egnam Segbefia, who's actually from Ghana, a trumpeter. He has a great music taste, and it's kind of like just like really classical music. I take that kind of music like in a Rolls-Royce. Now, if I'm in a Lamborghini, I'm probably on Madonna borderline,
there you go.
or the brand new heavies or something like that. So there's a temperament with vehicles and music.
Wow. Now, in the same train of the automobiles, in your travels and around the world, have you ever had an instance or an experience around the world in an automobile that you would think about or come to your mind? I have certain times, certain instances where I've been in a car. There's been moments where I was unforgettable. Is there anything automobile related that you've been involved with? Maybe even here in Beverly Hills.
I can't really say that I've had that moment in a vehicle somewhere globally around the world, because everything for me, because I had such a challenging upbringing, it was more or less visual. I would see someone or I would see it on a movie.
Right.
A great movie of mine that I watch consistently is Scarface.
Wow.
And it's the Porsche that he, was in. I love the style and how he dressed in that Porsche. There was a movie called Commando, and they had a 911 Porsche that on the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the guy that, I think Sully was the gentleman in the film. And the way his character was, he drove that yellow Porsche, which described it all. There's a movie called Sugar Hill that I love. And Wesley Snipes, who played Romello, he had a Jaguar XJ6. And it kind of went along with the type of music he listened to and how he dressed and the vehicle. So mine is more or less visual. Everything, like my whole sense of style and what I became is so much visual. Like I learned the culture of America and the world through movies. And then when I got older, I tried to emulate, which is probably why I went through so much in my collegiate days, because instead of just doing my schoolwork, I tried to emulate several luminaries who were pretty big in that at that time. But definitely, I would say more of a visual aspect than actually being in a vehicle and having an experience.
Yeah. Now, I see, based on now your Rolls-Royce Lamborghini thing, you just mentioned movies that would Porsches are in them, but would be the Lamborghini side of you, the aggressive in your face. Those movies were that kind of thing.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So that was more influential in your life as far as sticking in your brain.
It was such an inspiration by cars. There's a movie called Crush Groove, which is a movie from the late '80s. A lot of different hip hop artists, legends who were in that movie, and there was a scene where. Not Russell Simmons, I'm sorry, that's the brother, Run DMC, Reverend Run. He was driving in an El Dorado convertible white with red leather interior, and it was a song by the Gap band that was playing. It was called, I think it's Love Drive. And he was on the FDR. This is a 1980s film, like late 80s film. And I still revert the song from the Gap band and him driving on the FDR, Reverend Run, and that white Eldorado with red leather interior. And he double parks the vehicle, which is extreme. He didn't try to find parking. He just double parks it. Yeah. He goes between two parked cars and he goes into a brownstone. And the whole music of it all and the thrill of the vehicle, not mattering what the vehicle was, it was just unique.
Wow.
That was everything to me. I'm so driven by that. And then I end up coming to Hollywood, and my first film that I designed for was Spider-Man 2 and 3. And I have no film background or aspiration to do film, and I was fortunate enough to design clothes for such a highly touted film. What was the biggest selling film at the time? It beat the Titanic. And I worked on Spider-Man 2 and 3, and it was just phenomenal. So I think the divine power of God he just still has his hands all over me. You know.
Well, that's great. That's great. Now, I was going to ask questions about, say, someone that might be interested in your design, your clothing.
Yes.
And I've heard some of the movies you've done.
Yes.
Maybe television shows. How could someone have access to your designs? Through these things, or?
Well, typically, sometimes what happens which was the catapult was, in some of the films that I designed for and TV shows, they actually looked at the talent that was wearing my clothing. And they would see the talent wearing my clothing, and they would talk to an agent or a business manager. Right now, I designed for a gentleman that I started my career with, Terry Crews. And he, alongside being a humanitarian and a big global figure, he's on a show called America's Got Talent, which is probably one of the biggest shows in the country and also in the world. And he wears a lot of my clothing, along with his wife, Rebecca Cruz. And just that alone, I get so much media attention from him wearing my clothing, because he wears the suits, the shoes, the overcoats, and it's like a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
His vernacular and his concern and care to the people is eloquent enough as a RollsRoyce. But the actual apparel of the clothing is like a Lamborghini. And he comes out like a Lamborghini too, because he does his famous spin and everything. But everything is just so intricate in terms of my thought process with that. So they will follow that. And also my social media, which is always Show Boateng, my surname. I'm not heavily involved in social media as I should be, because I'm like a show off. The name, Always Show Boateng, which means like a showboat for my surname, you know. And I got that from a gentleman in the public housing project that I grew up in New Jersey, because I played basketball. His name was Johnny Jones, and he used to call me Showboating, because I used to always, you know, the way I used to dribble the ball, you know, so classic and reverent. And he gave me that, and I kept that name for all those years, and I put Always Show Boateng, which is my surname. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That is great. Wow. Now, as far as your fashion design in the automotive industry is highly competitive, through your experience, through your growth, would you have kind of any advice to anybody that thinks about possibly designing clothes? Anything that you learned, any problems, mistakes you made that might have you not wanted to have gone in a different direction?
You know, it's a very great question. Thank you for asking that, because I think the viewers would have a great know-how within just basically what I endured from that time. I believe that when hardship is in the midst of you and your back is against the wall, you come up with, because you can't go any further back, you only can go forward. I think mentorship is so important. I think what we're doing now, as far as a podcast, I think enlightening and letting people see how far you can go. It's what you believe. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And it's so important and it's so real. Everybody's journey is still the same, but I believe that mentorship and hearing challenges from individuals like myself, like I like to call myself Hope, because everything, it was all in hope. I visualized what I wanted to become. And I used a plan of attack, and I put myself out there all over the world to just, you know, continuously challenge myself. But I also went through hardships in terms of my collegiate career and then catapulting to what I became into. And now, what if I didn't listen to that, the female that I was with in college, if I didn't listen to her and go into design? She actually believed in it. I didn't.
Yeah.
She saw it. I didn't. But in college, I was incredibly elaborate. I wore like fur coats to school. I was so into, I would look at GQ magazine. I would see Tiger Woods on the front cover of the magazine with the shoe. And I would call the New York location and say, hey, do you have this shoe? I was so into everything except academics at that time. But nevertheless, that would probably be it.
Wow. And that, because that was kind of, I was asking that, kind of finalizing about one advice you'd give the audience and that kind of thing as far as your experience in going through the design world.
Never give up. Never give up. There's always something more.
Yeah.
Decently and in order, actually. But the key is not to be offendable and to be a great listener. I always tell like collegiate kids that, you have to be a great listener and always broaden your horizons. Want to know more, read more, develop more, talk more, and seek guidance.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
And ask questions.
The biggest thing is everything that my mother told me before that I failed at during those times is everything that was right now.
Wow.
Everything that was right now.
Wow.
And sometimes I just kick myself because I was like, my mom said, why you just do what I, and you fight that.
You challenge it.
You challenge it and you fight it.
Yeah.
And, my daughter is a 9-year-old girl. Her birthday happens to be next week. I always pick her up. Now, she's developed, she's growing, she's tall. But I never want her to know what that asphalt feels like because it's so hard and you endure so much that pain. I never want anyone to go through what's actually hard. But if you never give up and you just actually believe, it's not what you think, it's what you believe. If you believe it, it happens.
Yeah.
It really does. It might not happen at the magnitude you want it to, but it happens.
Yep.
What you know gets you in. Who you know, that determines how far you go. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, this has been quite an experience. I am pleasantly surprised. Like I said before, we've known each other, but we don't really know each other.
Yes.
And this has been an amazing journey, and I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for all that. Yes. Thanks for riding with us today. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe and share. See you here next time.